Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. I trust you had a great week. It whizzes by, doesn't it, at dizzying speed from one weekend to another at times. My macro thoughts start with something I wrote on the 8th of May of this month. I said it's a Wizard of Oz moment, folks. There is no one behind the curtain. I was referring to the Wizard of Oz, marvelous movie, but also to OPEC. Oil extended its biggest loss in 3 weeks as OPEC-led output cut extension falls below expectations. U.S. crude oil is up slightly at $49.14. And I said on the 8th of May that not only is it a Wizard of Oz moment, but in my opinion, this market is primed to crash, I said. Home thoughts, David Yarrow again. This must be one of the most unusual creatures living on planet Earth. Not that easy to take pictures of either, but this is all right, and indeed it is. And then I went back to one of my favorite quotations because today somebody came in and asked me about what philosophers I liked, and I said I like plenty. The one chap who might not be called a philosopher, but should be, is Jalaluddin Rumi, who said we come spinning out of nothingness, scattering stars like dust. Earth-sized polar cyclones, plunging storm systems, and a mammoth magnetic field on Jupiter. Look at this photograph from NASA. That took me back to Don DeLillo. There are dead stars that still shine because their light is trapped in time. Where do I stand in this light, which does not strictly exist? Trump meets the new leader of the secular world at Pope Francis. Article in Counterpunch after 2 days lecturing a collection of head choppers, dictators, torturers, and land thieves. Donald Trump at last met a good guy on Wednesday. Pope Francis didn't ask for $100 billion arm deal for the Vatican. He wouldn't go to war with Iran. He didn't take the Sunni Muslim side against the Shia Muslim side in the next Middle East conflict. He didn't talk about Palestinian terror. And he looked most of the time grim, unsmiling, even suspicious. So he should have been. Trump's broad, inane smile on confronting the Holy Father might have been more appropriate for the first of the Borgias, Alexander VI, whose 15th century womanizing, corruption, and enthusiasm for war would match Trump's curriculum vitae rather well. But the poor man's Pope, who last year suggested that Trump wasn't much of a Christian because he wanted to build walls, didn't seem to be very happy to see the man who called him disgraceful for questioning his faith. One offers peace through dialogue, the other security of arms, one of Francis' advisors said at the visit, which pretty much sums it up. No wonder the 29 minutes which the insane president and the sane pope spent together, Francis himself suggesting that they both keep away from the microphones, remain secret. Put up a photograph of President Trump meeting Pope Francis in Rome. NATO leaders listened to Trump's speech with consternation. It's all in the face, Francis tweeted, and indeed it was. Trump, foreign policy in brief, this is Daniel Larison, abject bootlicking of Saudi and Gulf despots, gratuitous insults aimed at actual allies. Last weekend I wrote the President of the United States, I didn't say this is said by the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. The President of the United States has a 12-second attention span. Trump's position is not in line with the EU's stance, that's Donald Tusk. And then in a huge geopolitical fracas, Trump met his handshake match in Emmanuel Macron. Listen to this description of the Trump-Macron handshake, quite something. And best of all, watch this video, it's geopolitical sorcery. Macron comes in to meet his NATO partners and aims as if he's aiming for Trump, and at the last moment ducks right and kisses Madame Merkel on the cheek. It really is breathtaking in execution. The Trump-Macron handshake is all white-knuckled, finger-crushing, male peacocking, says Newsweek. This is interesting. While Trump and his son-in-law met with Bibi, the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor waited outside. Wow. No matter how the rest of his trip goes, Donald Trump's problems will be waiting for him when he returns home. As I wrote on the weekend, one suspects that after a torrid week, President Trump could not leave Washington fast enough. This follows hot on the heels of the appointment of former FBI Director Robert Mueller as a special counsel in the investigation into Russia's interference in the U.S. elections. Trump added, "I'm not under investigation." One House Republican said, if what the New York Times reported is true, Vice President Pence is probably rehearsing. And I concluded by saying, we are living in an unprecedented moment. Der Speigel has a very hard-hitting article, "A danger to the world, it's time to get rid of Donald Trump. Not fit to be President of the United States, does not possess the requisite intellect, and does not understand the significance of the office he holds, nor the tasks associated with it. He doesn't read, he doesn't bother to peruse important files and intelligence reports, and knows little about the issues he has identified as his priorities. His decisions are capricious, and they are delivered in the form of tyrannical decrees." Der Spiegel is saying Trump has to be removed from the White House quickly. He is a danger to the world. And lots more points on that basis, but then comes up with 5 possible ways of removing him, but I don't think he's going to move that quickly. It's a bit of a Zuma situation, I think. Trump's son-in-law Kushner is under FBI scrutiny in Russia probe. This is in media reports. Kushner is being investigated because of his meetings in December and other possible interactions with the Russian ambassador and a banker from Moscow. The Post reported citing people familiar with the investigation. Ivanka Trump tweeted a few days ago, looking forward to a meaningful visit to the Middle East and the Vatican in promotion of religious tolerance globally. And then she tweeted, "Ciao, Roma." Interesting piece in the Politico magazine, Meet the Real Jared Kushner. He was supposed to be the calm one, cool and unflappable under his Ray-Bans and beltless blue bespoke suits. If Steve Bannon was the Rumpelstiltskin of the administration, donning multiple half-tucked dress shirts at a time and always carrying a clutch of briefing papers, and barreling through the administrative state, Jared Kushner, through pedigree and temperament, could reach out one of his long, elegant fingers and tap everyone in the West Wing on the shoulder and urge them to just cool out a bit. Except that isn't quite how it has gone in the White House over the last several months. It was Kushner who reportedly pushed for the firing of the FBI Director James Comey over the objections of Bannon. And it was Kushner who was the lone voice urging for a counterattack after Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein announced the appointment of a special prosecutor, according to the New York Times. Listen to this. Charles Kushner was convicted in 2005 and sent to prison for illegal campaign contributions, tax evasion, and witness tampering, after he attempted to blackmail his brother-in-law by hiring a prostitute to seduce him, and then sent the videotaped encounter to his sister. He said, "I believe that God and my parents in heaven forgive me for what I did, which was wrong. I don't believe God and my parents will ever forgive my brother and sister for instigating a criminal investigation and being cheerleaders for the government and putting their brother in jail because of jealousy, hatred, and spite." Trump says Germans are very bad, according to Der Spiegel. Donald of Arabia, a disgusting spectacle, said Justin Raimondo. Has there been a more disgusting spectacle during the 4 months of this presidency than the sight of Donald Trump slobbering all over the barbarous Saudi monarch and his murderous family of petty princelings? It's enough to make any normal American wretch, especially when one remembers what Trump said about them during the election. And then in another interesting piece in Politico, it was really the other way around. Trump wasn't the troller, he was the trollee. An internet troll lobs bombshells to get a rise out of the other side for his own enjoyment, or to get attention, or to make a point. Limbaugh isn't wrong to identify Trump with this species of provocation. In fact, it is possible to see Trump's entire campaign in 2016 as one long troll of respectable opinion. He routinely stoked the outrage and disgust of the media and the establishment in a way that boosted him in the eyes of his supporters. It's no accident that among his most ardent admirers were fellow practitioners like Ann Coulter and Emilio Yiannopoulos. Trump was a troll long before anyone had coined the term. He's a natural at it, fearless, shameless, and a genius at identifying and exploiting the psychological and emotional weaknesses of others. How did the hunter become the hunted in the Russian controversy? Trump's critics stumbled on a couple of his greatest weaknesses, namely an extreme sensitivity to slights over his status and to negative media coverage. Jeremy Corbyn blames the terrorist attacks such as Manchester bombing on UK foreign policy. An informed understanding of the causes of terrorism is an essential part of an effective response that will protect the security of our people, that fights rather than fuels terrorism. We must be brave enough to admit the war on terror is simply not working. We need a smarter way to reduce the threat from countries that nurture terrorists and generate terrorism. Very interesting. He's actually coming back in the polls. And what he said there was quite correct. A very dangerous period for the U.S. and China, Howard French. Xi's task is to impose himself, to say, we've arrived, deal with it, this is who we are. And all that stuff has been in the patriotic education for the last generation has now become manifest. This new balance has perhaps been most clearly illustrated in the South China Sea, where China, in spite of international rebukes, has expanded its presence and built installations with military capabilities on disputed islands. Kim's rocket men, seen in this photograph, test launch with Ri Pyong Chol, second left, Kim Yong-sik center, and Jiang Chang-ha. U.A.E. may fly warplanes from Somalia as Africa reach grows. The U.A.E. apparently have got a base now in Berbera, and of course in Eritrea as well. Can former liberators lead Africa into the future? Asks the Daily Maverick. My answer is no. President Farmaajo of Somalia held fruitful discussions with His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of the State of Qatar. A huge furore has developed in Qatar. The state-run Qatar news agency took down an article that defended all of Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran, claiming the site was hacked. U.S. and Saudi Arabia and the GCC were terribly upset. The story ran earlier quoted a speech given by the Sheikh that criticized U.S. foreign policy, the U.A.E., Bahrain, and Egypt. No one has a right to accuse us of terrorism because they designated the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorists or refused the role of the resistance with Hezbollah and Hamas. The retracted story also had quotes attributed to Tamim that stated that Qatar had good relations with Israel and that there is no wisdom in making an enemy out of Iran, the Middle East Eye reported. Saudi Arabia's Okas daily thundered Qatar splits the rank, sides with the enemies of the nation. So there we go, quite a bit, but I think what he said was right. Venice is one of the many cities that will suffer from sea level rising. This is a photograph from Tom_Astro. And as I wrote in November 2015, I cannot help feeling that we are like frogs in boiling water. We have created massive interference with the cosmic tuning phenomenon, and it is inevitable that these places like Venice are going to sink. International markets, Bitcoin is now worth almost double an ounce of gold. And if you will recall, my second trade of the year, this first was just buy Bitcoin. The second was go long Bitcoin and short gold. And that's confirmed by that Bitcoin being worth twice the price of gold. Bitcoin's rally, which had turned parabolic, and parabolic rallies always have to come back, retrace. There was a bit of profit taking. Another day, another NASDAQ record closed at a lifetime high of 6,205. Currency markets: euro, dollar 112.25, dollar index 97.26, Japanese yen 111.10, Swiss franc 0.9736. The pound has been softening, 128.76. The Australian dollar 0.7440. India rupee 64.605, South Korean 111.1944, the Rial 327.49, Egyptian pound 18.0967, and the Rand 12.91. Now, I didn't see this coming. Market thinks Zuma's about to leave. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Dollar index, let me put up a 3-month chart. My target is 93.50. Euro versus the dollar, here's a 3-month chart here as well. Target is 114.50. Gold, where are we now? 1263.19. So geopolitical concerns lifting gold. Sub-Saharan Africa, I like this poster. The sacrifice paid for Eritrea's independence was enormous. From Zaid Zamul. Zapiro, who's a cartoonist in South Africa. Zoominator. Take a look at that cartoon. South African all shares up 6.66% this year. Dollar versus Rand, as I said, big old rally in the Rand. Hopes that Zuma's about to exit stage left without further ado. It's not going to happen. The Aswan Dam, with a good camera lens, we can see the water spill when the valves are open from up here. Again, Tom_Astro. Egypt got around $11 billion of orders for its $3 billion Eurobond yesterday, offering investors $750 million of 5-year debt yielding 5.45%, a yield of 6.125% when the notes were first sold. 10-year bonds will yield 6.65% compared with 7.5% on the original notes. We like the reform story a lot, said Anthony Simon. They are implementing an impressive fiscal consolidation, which, coupled with the huge inflows of foreign capital since the devaluation, means that the balance of payments position is now much more sustainable. Egyptian pound is at 18.09. Nigerian all shares up 5.93% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 13.72% this year. Old foes square off in Kenyan election déjà vu, says Bloomberg. August 8th, presidential elections will be a rematch of the 2013 race. The president and his deputy are elected on the same ticket for a 5-year term. To avoid a runoff, a candidate must win an absolute majority of the popular vote and at least a quarter of the ballots cast in more than half of the nation's 47 counties. The elections are set to be a 2-horse race between Kenyatta and Odinga. 49% of 3,430 potential voters canvassed from May 2nd to May 14th in a computer-aided phone poll commissioned by Radio Africa Group said they would vote for Kenyatta, down from 51% in a March survey. 40% said they would back Odinga, up from 24%. Ahmed Salim of Teneo Strategy sees a chance of a runoff because mounting discontent over a drought-induced spike in living costs may push support for Kenyatta below the 50% mark. Investors want a decisive first-round result. A too close-to-call outcome would be the worst because then neither side will be able to step down. 2 more Kenyan police die in latest roadside bombing. Northern Kenya. Ma3 route the status of the famous Kawangware section impassable earlier this morning. Nairobi all shares entered a bull market. It's up more than 21% since striking a low in late March. It's up 9.16% year to date and at August 2016 high. Safaricom up 12.271% in 2017. KCB closed at a fresh one-year high. That's up 31.13%. Kenya Airways, which reported full-year earnings yesterday, about which I've already spoken, is up 16.239% year to date. Interesting piece in Business Daily dissecting Kenya Airways. Take a look at rich wrap-ups to get a better idea. I also did a little podcast about KQ. Take a look at that. KenGen is now up 26.72% year to date. Barclays surged 6.06% yesterday. And if you're ever, the NSE 20 is up 7.05% year to date in August 2016 highs. And finally, if you're ever interested in any single share, just click on the final link at the bottom of Rich Wrap-Ups and you can check into any share. Once again, wishing you a great weekend.